What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon video, and today we are going to be talking about invasion. Yes, it seems like one of the themes of Sun and Moon is invasion, because it keeps coming at us from different angles and actually links in pretty well with what the games are all about. So we're going to be going through the themes of invasion in the game so far, of what we've seen, and talking about maybe what this will build into for the rest of the game, as we'll hopefully see. So invasion, as I said, comes in many different forms. We actually have a load of forms which reference invasion. First up, starting with, we have Rattata, who was a sort of native Pokemon on the Alolan region, minding its own business, but it was a lot of Rattata. Joe would have liked this island basically, but the people of Alolan decided to bring in Yungoos, imported it from another region to hunt down these Rattata to lower the population count, and so it did that. However, Rattata then adapted and became nocturnal, hence changing to normal dark type, or dark normal type rather, and becoming more nocturnal, so as to avoid the Yungoos, which are obviously living during the day. So invasion in this sense, obviously we have the invasion of Yungoos into Rattata territory, causing it to have to adapt to this new predator basically that's in the region. So there's your first bit of invasion related to a load of forms, but then we have also Alolan Meowth to look at. Now we have Meowth. It was obviously imported from Kanto or a similar region to the Alola region, because the royal family of Alola wanted a Meowth, because why not? It's got a corn in its head, makes pretty good sense. But they didn't just want, any old Meowth. They bred their Meowths, they selectively bred them until they became, preen and very proud of themselves, and ended up becoming dark type Meows. And then unfortunately, as what happens with sometimes when you have pets, they escape or they get let go or you just give up. And of course these Meowth ended up eventually breaking out onto the Alolan region island, just in general rather than being as pets, and ended up, inhabiting the island, inhabiting the region, whereas they wouldn't have been before. So invading, they're an invasive species basically. They weren't naturally there, they ended up being brought in by humans. Then we also have a lot of plot ties in to invasion as well. It's not just the Alolan forms, there's a lot of plot ties as well. The first of these is that we have Team Skull, and they're basically rebelling against the traditions of the Alola region, and they're almost invading, invading the traditions of the Alola region. And in particular, we've seen some images of Team Skull invading, cities and towns. So it seems like invasion is, they are coming in and invading these towns and taking over because they want to stop the island trials. Now, why? We don't really know. There's no clear reason, but it's possibly because Guzma was rejected from being a trial leader when he was younger, or trial captain when he was younger, and basically him and the rest of his Team Skull grunts, they feel like they have been let down by this this island society. Hence they are rebelling and trying to take back control, which is very parallel to how a lot of youngsters and teenagers feel today. They don't fit in with the society around them, so they rebel, and they sort of invade in some cases. When they obviously rebel and do this sort of thing, they invade what was originally there and try to take over. So there's that link there. But we also have another team, that actually is invading in some sense, and is the Aether Foundation. Now, they may or may not be doing some nefarious experiments, whatever, experiments with Type Null, as well as possibly the Ultra Beasts as well, and they, in some senses, are also invading sort of what invading the ethics, I suppose, of Pokemon. Now, exactly, obviously, if Type Null is indeed one of their creations, it's not very ethical. They've stitched together a Pokemon. Now, obviously, it's up to you how ethical it is. But generally, from what we've seen in Pokemon so far, that wouldn't go down too well, I suppose. I mean, we've seen people selling Magikarp and stuff, so I suppose it's not too bad. But it's still invading, especially if they're doing experiments on otherworldly beings, i.e. the Ultra Beasts, who knows, then it might be a bit more, even worse, especially if they are human Pokemon hybrids or something to that respect. So instead of invading a place, they're actually physically, not physically, but invading in terms of a sense, again, the island sort of, the island beliefs, I suppose, because they're doing experiments and such that you wouldn't really want to do on Pokemon. So they're invading, being invasive in their research, basically. And we have, obviously, even more plot ties, because even the player, you as a player, are invading the region. Why? Well, because we learn you've just moved to the Alola region, so it's not really an invasion of such, but it is an emigration. And this is, I guess, a positive invasion, because we are going to invade the region, but in this case we are going to take on and build into the island beliefs, hence why we're going on the island trials and such, because we're becoming part of the sort of the culture. Whereas, some invasions don't go too well, as we've seen, but this invasion could be a positive one, hence why we are the player, we are the protagonist of the game, we are the good person, generally, and obviously we are the good example, basically. But of course, almost the biggest sort of example of invasion that you guys are probably shouting at the screen at this point is of course the parallel between the Ultra Beasts and the Guardians of the Alolan region. The Guardians, one for each island, they protect the island, they watch over its, its inhabitants, its Pokemon, whereas the Ultra Beasts seem to be a threat of some sort. They seem to be either, destroying areas of the islands possibly, or killing Pokemon, or fainting Pokemon I suppose is the better term, but they seem like a threat basically, and they parallel the Guardians because the Guardians are protecting the island values, they're protecting what is there currently, and the Ultra Beasts are invading the island, the region, even maybe our world to do so. So they are almost a prime example of invasion in these games, and seem to be sort of the main point of the themes. But why is invasion, why does it fit with the games so well? Well, think about it. We have Hawaii. That's obviously the region Alolan is based on, if you weren't sure. We have Hawaii, and one big problem with Hawaii is actually invasive species. And that's, other species of animals that have been brought to the islands of Hawaii that obviously haven't been natives there, so either possibly, as I mentioned, pets that escape, and then become part of the culture, I suppose, and part of the, well, not culture, but part of the ecosystem, and end up pushing out native species. So it's a big problem in Hawaii, really, because it hurts crops, it hurts native species that live there, and it's really not great for Hawaii. They're really quite worried about it because the more invasive species that come in, the less chance that obviously the native species on the island have to survive. And obviously a lot of species and animals that live on Hawaii are actually endemic to Hawaii, meaning that they they exist nowhere else in the world. So if we lose them on Hawaii, you lose them everywhere. So obviously, for example, one example of this is the Alolan Meowth, of course, bringing a pet to the region, and then obviously the pet eventually escapes or is let free, and it will eventually break into the ecosystem, and who knows, Alolan Meowth might have pushed out other native Alolan Pokemon that we'll never see because they're already extinct. And of course we have the clear example of the more sort of predatorial, the more aggressive invasive species of the Ultra Beasts, possibly becoming a big threat to the region, pushing out the Guardians, disrupting the whole balance of the region, and obviously that's not going to turn out well for the Alolan region in the long run. But what I want to know is, what do you think about this theme? Do you think the invasion theme is going to be carried on any further into the games? Do you think we're going to hear more about Team Skull and how they are rebelling because they don't feel like they fit in and they want to take out the trial sort of thing? And do you think the Ultra Beast plotline is going to go any deeper in terms of invasion? Are they going to take over the islands or what? Let me know what you think about this down below, guys. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button. But for now, this is going to be me for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.